friends, this is Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa String Works Workshop. And I just want you to know that I am playing an absolute total wreck. This is a guitar of mass destruction. It is not playable, it's not worthy, it's not any good at all, it needs to be replaced. Why do I say that after having just played it? Because of this. You can pause your video and read that, but I'll read it to you here in just a moment. What does that say? It says, one neck and FB problems, which I assume stands for fretboard. Neck loose and fretboard extension broke. Massive repair, not worth repairing, suggested replacement. Has a gouge in the front, so tune it to standard pitch. We emailed the customer about the problems. Customer did not want it repaired. Well, friends, I'm not just saying this. The truth is, I don't see anything wrong with it at all. I've seriously been looking at it for the last 5-10 minutes here in the shop, looking over it with a fine-tooth comb, and I can't find problem one, period. I see what they're talking about in their description. Do I think it's a problem? No, I don't think it's a problem at all. I mean, I don't even think it's a problem, let alone something that's a massive repair that, you know, needs to be replaced. Sometimes I look at these things and I see things like that and I go, is it just me, or maybe I'm missing something? You know, I mean, I look at it and I just shake my head and I go, I don't see any problem with this. And this is not the first time this has happened. If you watched my video, Not Worth Fixing, you kind of ran into the same thing on that one. But seriously, the guitar came to me in tune. You know, all I did was just fine tune it just to make sure it was still up at pitch, and everything really was up at pitch. In fact, if anything, it was a hair sharp on most of the strings. It doesn't even play bad. The actions, I mean, yeah. Well, I don't know. The action is just pretty darn good, really. I mean, to be truthful, I don't know that it's perfect, but it's pretty darn good. I haven't actually checked it to see where it's at. Let's just take a look at that even. I mean, I don't even see any fretboard problems that they're talking about. I will show you what they're talking about, but it's just so minor that it's like, huh? Okay, so let's first see if we can get a good reading on the action. And we'll try to use this little gauge. I don't usually use this gauge at the first fret. You're talking such a tiny amount here. It's already bumping at 15 thousandths or 16 thousandths, so it's definitely in tolerance. Let's see what it is here. I think it's even lower here. Maybe I'm wrong. It might be a hair higher here. Yeah, actually I'm wrong. It's a little higher here. It's probably 25 or 26 thousandths on the little E string, but that's still not horrible. It's not great, but it's not horrible. I've seen them much worse, let me tell you. This is actually pretty close, I think, here. This is already at 75 thousandths, 80 thousandths on the large E string, which is, in my opinion, that's too low for the kind of music we play, bluegrass, where we're playing hardcore bluegrass. If you're hitting it hard, you're going to be buzzing on that. So it's really low if you ask me. It's about 75 to 80 thousandths here on the small E. So certainly a good setup. I don't even see anything wrong with that. I mean, just a little bit up here. We can improve it a little bit up here, but it's just a minor amount of improvement. I mean, these two strings are high, I can tell. The rest of them, I think, are perfectly fine. Maybe the G just a tiny, tiny bit. But these two are a little bit high, maybe 10 thousandths high. Which, again, 10 thousandths isn't very much, guys. 10 thousandths is the first number on this gauge, the very first number. And see how thin that is? That's how high it is. I mean, we're talking like nothing. So, I mean, you know, that's not that much. All right, so what are they complaining about? Why are they saying this is not repairable, it's not fixable, and it needs to be replaced? Take a look right in here. There's a little bit of air space underneath the extension there. You can see a tiny crack through the binding right here, and that little crack goes up into the binding at an angle. That's it. And on this side here, the binding, there's a tiny bit of a crack between the top and the fretboard extension right in here. But it's minor. And let me just say that a lot of people call this out to my attention, you know, on their own instruments. Their fretboard bends right here. That's normal. I mean, that's not unusual. That's normal. If it didn't bend right there, I'd be thinking there's a problem. And the reason is because if you think of this top as a flat, perfectly flat plane, and then I'm exaggerating, but the neck is at an angle like that to this flat plane. Well, if it's like that, then it goes like this. You know? I mean, of course it's not nearly that steep. You understand my point, but it's still at an angle. So even at a low angle, it's still going to be higher than the top when it gets to this point right here. From that point on, it's going to be above the top. So how do you fix that? Well, you have to bend this down. So all flat top guitars have their fretboard bent down right here. Now I say all, I'm sure somebody has put an extension under there and built it up, and you know, I mean, that's doable. It's just not the norm on a flat top guitar. The norm on a flat top guitar is to just push this down because it's a minor amount, glue it in place, and when you do that, sometimes it'll even leave a little tiny crack under here. They just didn't fill it. For my money, if that bothered me as the owner of this guitar, I would take this stuff right here, I'd fill that crack, then I'd take a Sharpie and darken it in. That's just how I'd fix it. And I'd be completely 100% satisfied with that, knowing that there's nothing wrong. I seriously don't think there's one thing wrong. It's not broke on either side of the fretboard. That's a different story. If you see a line where it's broke down right next to this, which is common actually, and it goes all the way into the hole, and you see another break on this side, it goes all the way in the hole, you may have a relatively serious problem there. I don't even think that's crazy serious. I wouldn't call that a massive repair like they do on their assessment of this guitar. I wouldn't even call that a massive repair, let alone this. I don't even call this a repair. I call this a tiny minor pimple to pop. A very minor pimple. It's not even a significant pimple. So I don't know what they're talking about. And then the blemish on the top here that you need to tune it to no more than standard pitch, which I wouldn't recommend that anyway, to be honest with you, on any guitar. But I mean, they kind of pointed out like, don't ever tune it beyond standard pitch. That's got nothing to do with nothing either. So, you know, I don't know what they were thinking, other than they just want to sell another guitar, I guess. I see nothing to do to this except maybe just lower these first couple of strings here just a little bit, and that's all I'm going to do to it. There you go. Okay, I'm going to try to show you this in real time to show you how much massive repair this thing needs. I took my 18 thousandths pick here, stuck it in there, and it was a little bit high, so I just take my little fret file. The only pointer I want to make here is that you keep your fret file at approximately the angle of your peg head, and you make sure you don't rock it in the fret. You know, you want to make sure you're just going straight back and forth here. Now I am rocking it side to side, and the reason I do that is I actually like to have a little bit of slack. I don't like them pinched in there. I do not like to see a string pinched in a nut at all. And I don't want to hear your jokes either. That's almost it right there. It's still just a hair loose. So let's just go a little bit tighter. Maybe a little more. I'm just being picky here. It's so minor now that you can't really tell it. I think that's probably fine. Yeah, that's it right there. If anything, it might be a hair low now. I don't think it's too low, but it might be a hair low. So I'm going to do the next string because the B's just a little bit high also. And I seriously telling you, it's very minor. But it's a massive repair. I just want you to understand that this is a massive repair. That's what I'm doing to this guitar. And I'm going to charge them a massive fee also. My massive fee is they can't afford me, so I'm not charging them anything. Since they can't afford me, I don't want to charge them. That's perfect, that's perfect. All right, let's tune it back up and see what the massive repair did to the sound there. I'm sure that really fixed everything. Okay, so now after that massive repair, I just felt I should play it for you to see, you know, if it's still holding together. Sounds like it's holding together to me. I don't even hear any buzzing. Well, my friends, I hope you realize that I'm basically poking fun at all this, but it's pretty sad that they would tell a customer that, in all seriousness. You know, Caleb and I were talking about it off camera here, and we were saying it's got to be kind of one of two things. Either the poor guy that assessed this is just a numbskull and doesn't know one end of a guitar from the other. Maybe he's just totally inexperienced. I don't know. To make an assessment like that, you'd think he'd have to have some sort of knowledge or experience or something. Or they're just trying to rip people off and get them to buy a different guitar. And I seriously hope it's the first. I hope he's just a numbskull. I mean, that's pretty bad when you hope somebody's a dummy. But I really would feel terrible if they were just ripping people off that much. Well, I hope you got something out of this. Be leery of what people tell you. This area down here that you're going to see on almost every guitar, you know, a lot of people don't notice that for a long time, and then they look at it and all of a sudden they think, uh-oh, something's wrong here, there's a problem. I would bet $50, no, actually I'd bet $1,000 on this one, that this one went out of the factory with that little bit of a gap under the fretboard right there. I'd bet $1,000 on it. It doesn't look like anything has moved. It doesn't look like anything has changed. I don't see any finish cracks. I don't see nothing. The only little minor thing I see is the slight little crack in the binding. And binding is plastic, and plastic gets old and brittle, and maybe it was under a little bit of stress there on that bend when they pushed it down, you know, to glue it down here, and that binding was under that stress, and it just finally gave way and cracked. That probably did happen after, you know, after a while. The binding probably did crack. It didn't leave the factory with cracked binding probably, but I'll bet it did leave the factory with these two little slight holes under here. I mean, even on the guitars I build, honestly, if I'm being perfectly truthful, there's almost always some little minor gap there, and you either have to clamp it down more and glue it better, or you have to fill it slightly and color it. And you can't tell it, it's such a small gap. So, you know, I just wanted to set your mind at ease. If you're looking at that on your guitar, that's not really a problem. If there's cracks down both sides, that's a problem, or other kinds of structural cracks, you need to probably have it looked at. I hope you got something out of that. Thank you so much for watching.
Bye.